Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Welcome back again. We're still doing our pandemic projects, unfortunately. And today we got a treat. It was sent in by a viewer, Nick. This is one of the Spinfishers I haven't done. It's the 420 SS and 4200 SS, I'm sorry. And we're going to take it apart. We're going to show you how this reel's made, how to tune it up, and how to get it out there fishing again. So Nick sent me a couple of Spinfishers. Most of them I've done the videos on before. This one, just checked my catalog. I haven't seen it in there, so we'll go ahead and do this one. It's a freshwater fishing. It's the 20 size. That's the 2 and the 4200. It's the graphite frame. This is the last of the ones made in the U.S. prior to moving to the Spinfisher production over to China. So let's get started. We'll show you what this reel is made of, how to take it apart, how to work on it, and tune it up if you have one. If you're thinking of buying one, it'll kind of show you what the insides of the reel are made of, and we'll take it from there in terms of the composition and makeup of the reel. So this one has a release spool. Similar to the old Mitchells, you just push down the button and that will release the spool. We'll show you the drag washers and that towards the end of the service. Next up, you have the rotor and the axle. In order to get to some of the underminings of this thing, you got to take off the side case to get to the axle to remove the rotor. So let's take the handle off next. And as part of the service, you can put a drop of oil into the little arm where this is going to sit, and you can also put a drop of oil onto the handle. Just let that sit and work its way in. There's 3 side plate screws here. They're Phillips heads, so go ahead and grab a Phillips head screwdriver. Make sure it's the right one. You don't want to strip the heads of the screws. And you'll notice a couple of things while I'm doing this. The first is that I use a parts tray. That's where those pieces that I've taken off have landed so far. And I use a protective glove, which is to keep the lubricants and stuff off my hands as I can. Some reels are cleaner than others, but over the course of the day I find that I got quite a few of them that aren't quite up the normalcy. They've got dried greases and oils and that, and I just don't want to get that stuff on my hands if I don't have to. This says a 3-ball bearing on the side plate. The screws are in there. I'm going to take them out. And I do want to make sure that the screws are all the same for the side plate, which they are. We have a ball bearing in here, so I'm going to use Reelex, which is a aftermarket fishing reel oil. It's a synthetic, and I'm just going to flood that bearing, let it sit in the case there to work itself in. The next thing I want to do then is remove the main gear. We're going to see if we can do that without removing the axle shaft. It doesn't look that way. Of course, I can't get a good grip on it, so there we go. We got a good grip. Now notice this. There is a spring setup on this, and this spring setup, the short tab of this spring is going to go in the fork here for the anti-reverse. So you're going to need to align that when you go to reinstall. That's an interesting little thing. We'll show you how to do that. It involves really lining up the spring here through the window. That's why this little slot is in the main gear, and then inserting it into this little tag here. And then that's an eccentric spring. When that's holding in, then this other arm is going to be resting on the side case here. That's going to control your anti-reverse dog down here. So just pay attention to that. Know that that's something you have to do in order to make this reel work when you go to reinstall. All right, take the screw out of the crosswind block. That's a flat-bladed screwdriver. And what I recommend is take pictures along the way. So we're taking off a lot of pieces and parts. I'm familiar with this reel, so I don't expect to get in trouble, but I can't say that for everybody else. You want to do a couple of things. You want to go get a schematic. This is not the right schematic, but go to pennparts.com. There's schematics out there, and they'll show you the reel and show you the pieces and parts in a burst diagram. That burst diagram will show you how they come together if you got lost along the way. And pictures tell you a couple of things. Here's a crosswind block, for example, and this one has kind of a dome effect on the top. Very easy to flip that crosswind block around on reinstall, because it rides on a stud. It's real easy to just put it backwards like that, and you'll have trouble with the reel if you did that. So you need to take pictures along the way, understand the orientation of these parts, and then look through those pictures if you get stuck. And pull that crosswind block out while we're at it. And then the last thing to do is take the rotor off here. Now this comes off in a traditional counterclockwise method, and I just used the 10mm wrench to take this off. And this is basically a clean and lube. There's nothing broken with this reel according to Nick. Just clean it up and get it going again. So that's what we're doing here, and we're showing you that if you have one of these, how to go ahead and do it. So we're going to remove the rotor, and all that's sitting in here then is a bearing, and it has a click ratchet below that, which is where the anti-reverse dog is going to ride. So we're just going to remove that at the moment, and we'll do that. Well, we're not going to remove it, we're just going to oil it. There's nothing in here other than that. Now if you're having problems with the pinion gear, you can pull this little screw here, and that'll remove the keyway, if you will, that's holding the rest of this in. And then we'll just grabbing a cotton swab, just going to pull off some of the old grease. I'm not seeing grease in the channel. If it was really loaded with grease or something, then again I would go ahead and remove that, but this reel is clean, so we don't need to do that as part of a general service. Alright, I'm going to use Penn's fishing reel grease, and I'm going to load up the pinion gear again. We've oiled that bearing up top. So we want to grab that. While we're doing gears, we want to make sure that this gear is clean. It is. This reel's been very lightly used. You want to check the teeth. You want to check it in two ways. You want to check it this way to make sure that all of the teeth are uniform and that the gear is not warped. And then you want to check it this way to make sure all the teeth have proper alignment and that none of those are chipped or bent or broken or in some other way damaged. When you're using that reel grease to go ahead and put new grease back onto the teeth, make sure that you put grease onto the back of the gear here, because that little gear drives the crosswind block, and that needs grease as well. Alright, that's properly greased. Now we're going to just go ahead and reinstall, because it's a relatively simple reel to work on. This is clean as well. This is the crosswind gear. We can get grease onto the back of it. It's going to lay over the stud. And when you put this back in, you want to just put the stud to the low end here. And you also want to put some grease onto the face of that gear. Then we'll go ahead and grab that crosswind block. This is the one that has the two faces. Remember, one goes up, one goes down. In this case, we remember that it goes up. And it's easy enough to get in trouble with these. I certainly have gotten in trouble with these over time by putting them in the wrong way. So if you had a question on that, if you didn't take a picture along the way, and if you were just trying to figure it out, that burst diagram could be helpful there from the part schematic. I probably shouldn't have put those two pieces in because I need to put the rotor on. The rotor is clean underneath. You can put a drop of oil in here. There's a little spring mechanism type of a dog that's going to work when the bale fires. So go ahead and put some oil onto that. Just knocked the keyway out, so let's go put that hold fast back in. I'm going to grab that nut then. A lot of these reels have tie downs on these nuts so they don't slip. In this case, this reel does not have that tie down. So make sure it's tight, but you don't need to over tighten these. Sometimes actually over tightening them is going to warp the the rotor, and it's going to make it difficult to turn. But just make sure it's tight. In this case, that one's running just nicely. Thank you very much. Okay, then we want to put the axle in. We noticed that we could put that main gear in after the axle. So you want to make sure the axle is clean. I'm going to use a paper towel for that. Last of the roll. I got lucky there, I guess. We'll get the light coat of grease on there. If you put any more than a light coat on, when you go to put it through the pinion gear here, it's just going to all scrape off and just load up the top, and there's no value to that. So just put a light coat in just to facilitate it riding through. And in this case, there's a shoulder on that axle gear, so it's kind of hard to go past where that little set screw belongs. Grab the set screw next. Go ahead and reinstall that. And then we'll be able to put that main gear back together. So while we're doing this, I want to give a special shout out to the first responders. Thank you for doing what you're doing here during the pandemic to help us all stay safe and to nurse us back to health. We really do appreciate all of your efforts. As part of my ongoing efforts, I'm offering to tune up one of your favorite reels. If you're a first responder or essential personnel, just drop me a note to my email, which follows on my business card, and I will be happy to give you the information on how to send the reel to me and get you tuned up for when you are able to go do some fishing in between everything else that you've been doing. So there you go. All right, there's a little tag, as I mentioned. You can hardly see it there, but there is a right angle that comes off of that eccentric spring, a friction spring, whatever they're going to call this. That belongs in the fork here on that anti-reverse dog. So how do you get that in there? Well, you kind of look over, but you look through too. That little guide hole there will show you. And then what you can do is you can look through that hole, get it lined up, push your main gear in, and that's it. So now you should have, oh, we don't have the main gear set yet, do we? There we go. So the main gear is set now. It'll be spinning, and then as you go to reverse, it's going to hold reverse. You can see in the back there just how that anti-reverse is locking in. That's the only way this is going to work. You have to get that spring into that fork on the anti-reverse dog. If you just put the main gear in and don't pay attention to that, you won't have an anti-reverse. And actually, you'll probably wind up grinding out that, that spring there. Okay, side plate goes on. Go into my handy parts tray where I have the 3 screws that are all identical, so we don't have to worry about which side goes where. We'll go ahead and grab my screwdriver, and then we'll go up and show you how to service that that spool, because some folks get stuck on that spool as well. They run out of drag. They think that they have the drag solved, and there's, like everything else, it seems a hidden piece in there that some folks don't pay attention to. So let's go ahead and just get the rest of this on, tighten those screws down. I never tighten them all one by one. I make sure that they're all in and set before I do that. We've oiled this handle already. Let's go ahead and put that back on. Make sure that we give it a run here, a nice and smooth runner. Make sure that our trip is working, which it is. And you can put a little drop of oil into the creases on the bail. Let it work its way in. All right, that's working nicely. So let's take a look at that that spool then. So this is comparable to a Mitchell 300 spool from the old days. It has a push button release that allows you to take that spool off and not affect the drag tension that you have preset on it. That's kind of why they do that. And this, to service the drags then, you're going to take the drag adjuster off. You should see a metal torsion spring. I had a question on it recently, which way does this go, up or down? Well, there you go. You're seeing the feet of the spring are down, kind of looking like a drone, if you will. There's 2 sides, right? There's a cup side and there's a top side. The top side, the feet go below. Now we should have a metal plate and a plastic washer, or Teflon washer. So you don't do anything with Teflon washers. Teflon washers are a petroleum product. They're self-lubricating. You want to take that out, and you want to make sure that your channel is clear, nice and clean. Because again, these fishing reels with top drags take the brunt of the water coming off. When you're spinning line, it's throwing water on there. The water can accumulate, it can get dirty. If it's in salt water, the salt can dry. And that'll ruin the effectiveness of a drag. So make sure all of that is clean. Well, we're not going to button that up yet because there's one more drag washer here. You need to push your assembly through, and there you go. You have one more drag washer below here. And you want to do the same thing here. You want to make sure this channel is clear. There's a little copper washer underneath that. Make sure that that channel is clear. Clean it out of any debris, and you can go reinstall. Sometimes you have to reorder this one. A lot of times folks will tell me the drag is slipping and this drag is broken below, or it's dirty, or it's whatever, and they haven't paid attention to that. They just assumed that the only part of this spool here was the top drag washer, this one, and they'll tell me the drag washer is fine, and then we'll take a look at it, and it really wasn't. Okay, Teflon washer, nothing on there. Metal washer. Don't have the shoulders lined up here. There we go. Pointy feet go down. Drag adjuster goes on. And that's your service of your spool. And that's your service of your reel. So that's the 4200 SS. It's the 4th generation, I believe, of the Penn Spinfishers. So that's a nice smooth reel, Nick. Thank you for sending that in. All right, so that's how this reel gets taken apart, gets cleaned, and gets serviced in a step-by-step process. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the section, and I try to respond to as many of those as I can. I've been doing pretty good lately, but we've been busy as well. Again, if you're a first responder and you're interested in having one of your reels serviced at no charge, just drop me a line to the email on the business card that follows, and I'll see what I can do about helping you out there, since you're helping so many people out during this pandemic. So if you like this and would like to see more, please subscribe. If you have a reel like this and you don't feel like working on it, or just are intimidated by it, yes, I do repair reels, and you can contact me by that same email on the business card, and I'll be happy to share the details of the repair service. So with that, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.